What's up, Ravens fans? It's the time of the week where we get to hear from you guys and answer your questions in our Ravens Mailbag segment. Lots of questions right now after the initial spending spree of free agency. The Ravens didn't sit it out this year.
No.
They were out there. They were spending money. And so lots of questions, though, still kind of remain. So let's jump right into them. Matthias Croft wants to know, with the free agency receiver pool getting thinner and thinner, what are the options? Maybe re-sign Kamar Aiken as that possession receiver?
Yeah, the options are dwindling right now, and a lot of the top guys, Brandon Marshall, Terrell Pryor, Alshon Jeffrey, those guys are all gone. Would have been nice to get one of those guys.
Absolutely.
Ain't gonna lie. But there still are options out there. I mean, you look at Anquan Bolden, Victor Cruz, you look at Kamar Aiken. Can he boomerang back to the Ravens after it seemed like he was definitely gone? They're not the number one big-time receivers, but I think that they are the complementary receivers that Ozzie Newsome talked about heading into free agency. He never said, and people kind of misconstrued this, that the Ravens are looking for some big-time number one guy. Steve Smith didn't put up, 1,500 yards and 15 touchdowns last year. They're looking for a guy who can step into that role. They retained Mike Wallace, who went for over 1,000 yards last year. They expect Brashad Perryman to take the next step. Really, you just need a possession wide receiver, and I think they can still get that. There's options I mentioned earlier, plus more guys are going to be released. I mean, there's always a veteran that comes available at some point. They also have Chris Moore, and you could draft another wide receiver, and I expect that they will. So there are still options out there, but yes, the top number one big-time targets, they all gone.
Well, like you said, Ozzie told us. He told us all. We're looking for a veteran that still has a couple of years left, that still has some juice in his
That's
legs.
still very much alive.
Those guys are still out there right now. All right, more questions about wide receiver now. Marcus Brandt wants to know, I know it's probably a long shot here, but would the Ravens kick the tires on Josh Gordon if he gets reinstated? Well, it's funny. I actually asked you this question as we were sitting there talking at some point last week.
Yeah.
I think that if he were to get reinstated, now he still has to get through that process. And the Browns, they seem to have made it clear that if he comes back, that he's not going to be back with them next year, that they would let him go, release him, trade him, whatever that would be. So if that happens, I think that he's worth taking a look at.
Well, there's a potential number one. We're sitting here talking about number one.
You talk about big play, number one wide receivers. Obviously, he's had his issues off the field with substance abuse problems. You hope that he's past that.
He would have to prove that to the Ravens.
You would have to prove that he's past that. And so, but if he is, the guy can play. I mean, he led the NFL in receiving yards just a couple of years ago, and
Is that in like 10 games or something like that?
Yeah, he missed a couple of games because of a suspension there.
Right.
So in terms of talent, he's got it. That's not a question. And I think that you at least explore that if he were to get reinstated.
Yeah, definitely. Our last question comes from @Jake01816, and Jake asks, is there any chance the Ravens take Sidney Jones in the 2nd to 3rd round if he's available? Well, for those who don't know the story, the University of Washington cornerback tore his Achilles during his pro day workout. At least that's what reports indicate. So really a huge bummer. I mean, here's a first-round talent, probably mid-first round, a guy who was pegged to the Ravens in a number of mock drafts, and now he's probably going to miss his entire rookie season, you would think. So obviously his stock diminishes or tumbles down a little bit. Where it falls, that's anybody's guess at this point. It could be 2nd round. I've even seen still late 1st round because that's how good a talent he is. So,
I mean, if you remember last year, Jalen Smith from Notre Dame, he didn't play at all, and the Cowboys took him early in the 2nd round. So maybe it's kind of that range
right,
for
the 4th
Sidney
pick
Jones.
in the 2nd round, they took him. So yeah, I think maybe he could get to the Ravens in the 2nd round. And if he does, then yeah, I think that's a possibility that you explore. But let's not forget, the Ravens need cornerback help now. So I think it would depend, do they get a cornerback in free agency? Is there a Morris Claiborne who's in reports right now? Have they solidified that position, and then you're looking to draft Sidney Jones as a long-term starter at that spot? I think that's how it'll play out.
Yeah, so we'll see how all of this works itself out. Obviously, lots happening at this time of the year. Keep the questions coming every single week on social media. Use that hashtag Ravens Mailbag. Thanks for watching, everyone, and have a great rest of your day.